All right, I think we've got a good critical mass here. So let's get started. Today we're going to talk about I log it a lot, free logging and for your all of your Cisco stack, but specifically Duo Umbrella. My name is Jeremy Young. I am Senior Director of Partners at Blumira. If you recognize me from like years past, it might be because I helped start and build the Duo MSP program back in the day. And I was also employee number 19 at Huntress. Like we said, I'm here in Austin, Texas, but I'm in like MSP event land usually. So I don't think the people that I am closest to in the world, I have no idea where they live because I see them every week in some different city, just like Aaron is in Philadelphia. So, Aaron, in Philadelphia today, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Torres. I do also live in Austin, Texas, or in an airport. I'm one of the MSSP leaders here at Cisco that helps our partners, mostly from channel enablement point of view, but real big cybersecurity evangelist. Really just want to help people just build a safer and better practice or et cetera. So love long walks on the beach and big soccer fan.
Nice. Yeah, we were chatting the other day. We're both soccer fans, and luckily we live in Austin, which is kind of a soccer city now. But let's start out with a poll. And Patrick, if you can, or Gabby, if you can load up the poll. But what we're gonna ask you is, I'm curious, out of those MSPs on the call, how many of you guys are actually have logging turned on and the various things? Like none at all? Are we logging and doing detection and response for M365 and a few other cloud apps? Got it on firewalls, got it on Windows endpoints. Where are we at? And so we'll get that set up. I can, while we're waiting for results here, I can say that from my perspective, I've been here at Blumira for a little over 3 years. And so I've been talking to MSPs every day of that time and for years before that. But generally speaking, the rooms that I walk into, when I started 3 years ago, it was about less than 40% of MSPs had some logging for detection log monitoring solution in place. That's up to closer to like 70% for internal use, and it's usually less than 10% out to of their customer base. So from a high level, that's kind of the litmus test. There's probably 30 to 50% of the people on the call that aren't doing any of this. On this call, it might be higher than that. We are a more security mature audience than just the general population. What's your kind of call on this, Aaron? What's your experience?
Well, when I look at, to your point, logging and visibility, it's shocking to me in a lot of ways how a lot of, even from a customer or partner or just the industry out there, how a lot of people are just not logging. They just get security products, right? And they are just turning them on and hoping they do what they can. I am now a huge believer in logging and the visibility that you get from that perspective. So and when I was introduced to Blumera a while back, I just became an instant believer in what they do and how they complement the Cisco security stack.
A blue lever,
The blue
we'll
lever,
call it.
yes, yeah, I like
I
that.
like it. Yeah, feel like I just made a new t-shirt. We've still got some people coming in, but about 24%, so I was a little high on my guesstimate, are have no external logging. Uh, about 15% are doing it on M365 only. There's another 12% that are got a few more cloud apps on top of that, and really only about 8% are doing it on everything. And that's of the responders, which there's about 42% no answer. So thank you for those who participated there, and let's keep this moving. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is like, why does this even matter? Why are we asking you? Why do you need log retention? Why do you need logs? And why are they important for detection and response? And then, if hopefully we convince you it does matter, give you a way to do free logging on your Cisco stack. So let's pop in to talk about why logs actually matter. But I'm a big proponent of basically zero trust methodology in everything that I do. And I'm not talking about just network architecture. I'm talking just don't trust anybody. Don't take anybody's word for it. Try it out and don't believe me. So recently, the NSA, together with the Australian Cybersecurity Center and many others, put out a document called Best Practices for Event Logging and Threat Detection. Kind of relevant for what we're talking about here, right? So in it, they call out quality log data helps in building a comprehensive picture of your environment, drives detection and alerting systems to discover issues quickly, helps incident responders understand what went wrong if you do suffer a cybersecurity incident. Furthermore, ideally, logs should be stored for a period of 1 year. In the middle of an incident is not the time to find out that you were not logging useful data or that you were not retaining that data for long enough to thoroughly investigate the incident. And check out all the countries and orgs that signed on to this. NSA, CISA, Department of Justice, the Aussies, the NCSC in the UK, the GCSB, a whole bunch of Canada Center for Cybersecurity, Singapore, others that I don't even know what Tira Tiaki is, but it sounds important, and they know what they're talking about apparently. But we're not making this up. This is a security company trying to sell you something. This is best practices of the industry. And if you think about it, I hope you haven't, but for those of you who have been through a security incident, Aaron, if the incident response company gets involved, what's going to be one of the first questions they ask after they're like, "What insurance do you have?" What is one of the first questions?
Uh, do you have logs? And it really,
Where are the
really,
logs?
yeah, where are the logs? So, I mean, if you look at IR incidents, you look at email, you look at endpoints, and the next question is, do you even have those technologies out there, right? And if not, then we need to put those technologies out there to gather those logs, either being NetFlow or syslog or just cloud connectors to those applications, right? And the question is, do we store it all, or do we look at those important things? And I think you kind of addressed that at a later time. But in any instance, you're right. From an IR investigation, even from a SOC point of view, you're only as good as the visibility that you have. So
Absolutely. If somebody steals money from your bank account, what are you going to do? You're going to go log in and you're going to look at the inputs and outflows from your account. That's the log.
right.
That's the same purpose across the board. If a plane goes down, and of course all the people get saved, what are they looking for? They're searching for the black box because that's the thing that kept all the logging of what went on that plane. And we're all familiar with that. If you don't have that, then it's just a lost cause. You're not going to be able to find anything. So because collecting all of the logs from all of the things enables such enhanced visibility into your environment, you are able to dramatically reduce the time to detect, and armed with the information about what to do about it, you're able to bring down that time to response as well. And really, this is just a matter of turning the lights on, getting above that cybersecurity poverty line. Without log monitoring, SMBs really have no chance to catch advanced threats early in the attack chain. But with log monitoring, so you're telling me there's a chance. Love that one. And that doesn't go just for SMBs. Enterprises and even security companies are blind to living off the land techniques and supply chain attacks without log monitoring. And so let's talk about this. We all remember SolarWinds. SolarWinds 123 was probably like a great Halloween costume a few years ago. But if you don't remember, SolarWinds is a big technology and big security company, also here in Austin, Texas, as it happens. And in 2020, they got caught up in the middle of a big uh, nation state level attack, which became very global news back in pandemic times when we had nothing else to do. Uh, Russia backdoored them and got into their software delivery lifecycle and embedded a backdoor into their actual code. And it had been there for a long time. Aaron, do you remember how this actually got caught?
If I remember right, it had a lot to do with the MFA, 2FA, the capabilities of how the things were man in the middle and how they were proxying information. I believe that was a big part of it.
So FireEye, which Mandiant and FireEye, they were used to be one company that split off, but Mandiant is the digital forensics company. They use SolarWinds. And one day they got a priority zero alert into their SIEM. And the priority zero alert, to your point, was it was from their MFA provider.
Mhm.
Spoiler alert, they use Duo. And somebody, one of their people, had added a new phone to their Duo user ID. And so all this happens all the time, no big deal. 99 times out of 100, not a thing. The simple instructions, hey, go ask Aaron if he added a new device to his Duo user ID. All the time it happens? Yep, no big deal. Well, this time they asked Aaron. Aaron said, no, I have no idea. I didn't get a new phone. I don't know what you're talking about. That priority zero SIM alert, which if you're not looking at these things, you never know to ask the question, then just became a priority one threat. And so they started to figure out that, oh, there was this person who added a phone to the Duo user ID who was trying to get access to the VPN, and after trace routing it back and went to Russia. They started looking into other things and they saw these weird traffic threads all pointing back to the SolarWinds server. They looked all through the SolarWinds server, nothing they could find. So they started decompiling the code of the SolarWinds server, and that's how it was actually found. If that priority zero alert, if that threat actor, if that one Russian attacker hadn't gotten so bold to add his phone to the bold and lazy to add his phone to the Duo user ID, we still wouldn't know this thing was backdoored. So it's the good hygiene of looking into logs that allows you to simply ask questions that, and this is where I get touchy on the subject of false positives. So if they'd asked the question, did you add this? And the answer was yes. That's not a false positive. That's doing good hygiene of asking the right questions, anticipating that one day the answer isn't going to be, oh, yeah, that's fine. Uh, Aaron, other examples that you can think of that this kind of resonates of you cannot protect what you cannot see.
Right, absolutely. I love the example used earlier about your bank account, right? I'm constantly logging into my bank and seeing, what did my children spend? And what are they spending on? And then more importantly, I look at how much of a deposit am I getting from my paycheck to cover these bills, right? And that is a form of a log, right? And we look at the personal access that we have on our phones or corporate devices or emails. It's all kind of mixed in together. And it could be your phone has your personal messages, your personal pictures, or email, maybe some corporate information in there. And a lot of times, another example that we see out there is very popular from the threat landscape is something called SIM jacking, right? And what that is sometimes someone's cloning the SIM or the IMEI information from someone's phone, and basically allows them to clone their phone in a virtual or in a physical world and be able to intercept their trust, right? So even though you may have had zero trust because it was your phone device, but my inherited trust is there now because I'm saying I have a new phone, even though it's the same number. That a lot of people are using two-factor authentication from text or whatever it might be, and they're now using these credentials from a phone number point of view to get access to the applications, either being an Instagram or a corporate email or whatever. And then a lot of times after those type of attacks, and I'm talking about one particular attack, and you guys are welcome to Google it's Tycoon MFA, is once they take all your information and use it kind of like a man in the middle to proxy the information, they're also using your shared OneDrive or Dropbox or whatever to do their own phishing campaigns, because now that you're a trusted entity, they're using your information to trick other people to be able to enter their credentials, right? That is a great example of I need visibility, right? I need a SIM application that tells me not only the time that it happened, but maybe different alerts and different triggers throughout a period of time of how it happened, where they went, how they access other things, and be able to correlate that information together from a threat hunting point of view.
Yeah, the majority of successful advanced threats aren't malware on the endpoint. That happens later on down the attack chain. what allows people to stay in environments for 100, 200, 300 days. Take your pick in terms of different reports, say how long it is. It's because they're using the embedded operating system or phone components in a nefarious way. It's really hard to detect when an operating system is doing a valid thing. So if you just add a new user to Active Directory, that happens all the time. But if it's a new user added to Active Directory that, or a scheduled task to do that every day, so even if you delete the user, it's going to come back tomorrow. Those are all valid things that the operating system is supposed to do. But if it's being done by somebody who's not supposed to be there, that's the problem. So how do we detect that? And that's much harder. So really, as we mature as an industry, we're starting to realize we have a problem. SMBs need a real SIM, and that's the SIEM, not the SIM, SIM, SIM swap on your phone. We need a security information and event managing type of application, but SMBs don't want to pay for it. MSPs don't want to manage it, and there's no wonder why. Historically, here, there haven't been any good options. Anything that showed promise couldn't scale because they relied too heavily on throwing people at the problem and end up getting acquired. Legacy solutions, they're too expensive, too complex to handle with limited resources. Or at the end of the day, they're just kind of crappy tools for SMB. They become a waste of time and just really just to check a box. So a real SIM is becoming a necessity for multiple different directions. And if you're big enough, if you got a SOC, go buy Splunk. Absolutely 100% of the time. If you are focused on IT operations and you don't have access to a bunch of security people, you need something that is built for IT admins. Now, I know your clients aren't going to open up their walls unless they have to. Simple reality is we're heading down a path where we're going to have to. So SIM, log retention, and monitoring are already being tied to premium costs and cyber insurance. We know it. You're not going to be insurable without it. CMMC is coming right down the path. You're not going to be able to get level 2 without having a log monitoring and retention system in place. So a little more about us before you just go and blindly sign up for an NFR. Everybody here, I'm sure, preaches the value of zero trust. We already mentioned it before. Again, don't take my word for it. Try it for free. And I'm going to give you a little bit more about us before you have to go do that. We were founded in 2018. Blumira was to try and solve the SIM SOC dilemma for the SMB space. We believe that by making a real SIM simple and affordable, we can help smaller organizations who have been neglected, priced out, or simply failed by existing solutions. At a high level, Blumira is a real SIM platform backed by a security operations team available 24/7 for urgent incidents to help with detection and response. And we enable MSPs to protect their clients with faster detection and prevention of attacks like ransomware. And again, don't trust me. I say, trust anything I have to say. Our program provides free for internal use licensing for our entire platform to MSPs. Protect your own business with Blumira and see if it's a good fit for your managed services practice. That's as easy as it gets. And if you haven't seen it, channelprogram.com is a place where MSPs and vendors like get together to connect and for MSPs to review their vendors and solutions. We are the only SIM provider there on their stack charts that is a chart topper, and you can't buy that position. That's a replacement due to feedback that, like this. Amazing SIM solution for MSPs, a SIM that every MSP should entertain. Our platform is great. Our support is even better. Shockingly, we're affordable enough for your end clients. What does affordable mean? We have multiple editions, but I focus this down the one most popular for MSPs. It's per user pricing. It's likely going to mirror the number of seats that you're charging your client for. This includes unlimited data ingestion, 1-year retention, unlimited integrations, 2 agents per user, and 24/7 support for critical incidents. We bill monthly in arrears based on actual usage above the minimum. Minimum is at the MSP level. Get one invoice, one amount, and then a billing report that shows who used what. Setting Blumira up, very easy and straightforward. You simply follow our documentation to get all of the logs from all the things. You do so in a combination of up to 3 methods. The agent grabs logs from Windows, Mac, and Linux and sends them over the internet from wherever you happen to be. You can use our cloud connectors to create cloud-to-cloud connections, pull data into Blumira via API, and you can use a Blumira sensor, which is usually a virtual machine, to grab the syslog, the firewalls, the routers, and securely encrypt and ship that up to the cloud. And Once you get the data hits Blumira, we do everything necessary to make the solution viable from a security perspective. We subscribe to all the threat intel feeds. We do all the threat hunting that results in new detections. We tune and groom those detections constantly to ensure they're actionable. And when you get reports from us, our findings enable you to respond with detailed analysis and step-by-step guided responses, or we'll be there to help you as the case may be. And this can be set up in no time at all. And you guys, a lot of people here on this call probably have Duo. Let's take a look at how hard it is to actually set up Duo. And let's run this. So as you're seeing here on the Blumira side, we're going to go into our cloud connectors. We're going to add a cloud connector. And we're going to select Duo. There are many available to select. It's going to need 3 pieces of information. So you're going to log in. You're going to create an admin API by protecting application, something that you guys have done many, many times. If you're going to have more than one admin API, it's always good to give it a specific name so you can find it next time. Just a tip that he's going to do right here. So logs to Blumira is what we're going to call this. Give it the permissions that we need, which are documented in the documentation that we've done this many times. So we're skipping, but you can see there's a link to right there. And then there's your I key, your S key, and your API hosting. And we just do some copy pasta. And once that's all set up over there, we're going to connect it. It's going to show up as green. And moments later, you're going to have logs start flowing. That once the logs start getting into Blumira, it goes through a process to simplify and parse them all out into a database. And then within the next half hour to an hour, a tool called automated detection, automated rule deployment runs, and detections that are applicable to the log types that we're receiving automatically get applied. So all of the nasty bits of running a SIEM that you've had to do, may or not have had to do in a past life, all that stuff gets done for you. Just follow our docs to get the logs up there and you're good to go. And that takes about 90 seconds. Aaron,
Jeremy, I got a question
yeah.
for you. Yeah, I was gonna say that's slick. That's awesome. A lot of MSPs want to know, or we get the question of multi-tenancy. They have multiple customers, multiple ways of doing things. Is it just a single platform? Can you expand on that?
So our multi-tenancy is set up very similar to Duo's multi-tenancy in that you're going to get a parent account. You can either put your NFR at the parent or you can create a sub account for that NFR. And NFR, not for resale, free for internal use licensing is what I'm talking about there. You can then add a individual tenant per client, and each one of those tenants you would then connect to the Duo API on inside your client's API or inside your client's tenant. So it's a one-to-one relationship. The logs are not going to be commingled. You get an MSP portal where you can look back and forth between them. You can do an account switcher or you can view all of them in a single MSP portal dashboard. And that also, because of the way that's built out, that supports co-management so that you can add your clients into their individual tenant and they won't see anything else. So pretty similar to, and as you're looking at these two screens, Blumira is headquartered out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Duo was originally headquartered out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. I am not the only ex-Duo employee that works at Blumira. That's how I got here was they were like, hey, Jeremy, come do that MSP thing you do, because I knew all of them from my Duo days. So there's a lot of ex-Duo alum over at Blumira, and they learned some things from the first time around. Another did that answer the question, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I'll add too is before you move on, I've had the joy of getting some experience with Lumira. I like that fact that you have tons of integrations, not just from a cloud connector point, but also alerts, right? Where if companies are using, let's say, Cisco WebEx or Slack or whatever, and they want to design alerts and notifications going to their customer room or whatever, I find that really impressive too. So just kudos to Blumira on that.
Yeah, and you can set up alerts to go to Slack, you can send them to go MS Teams, you can get them in your PSA. We're working right now on individual PSA integrations to do further mapping and two-way sync, but right now they get into the right place via email with uh, centralized and standard naming in the subject line so you can parse it out. What we're watching here is the probably the most common application, which is M365. So it's a little bit more steps, as anybody who's a Microsoft partner, which is 100% of the people on the call, will be no surprise about. Uh, but what you're going to do is you're going to set up an enterprise application. Now, a lot of common questions here, and there's still three pieces of information. There's just about 30 screens you have to go through to get it. But on the Blumira side, same thing. Go to the cloud connectors, grab that M365 box, and then you're going to go through the documented steps to grab the information you need. And once you have that, it's going to be a similar instance. As you can see there, we also support GCC High. So if you have any clients that are in that world, you can bring those logs in as well. M365, there's a lot of questions around, are there prerequisites? So the only prerequisite, like, do I have to have P2 licensing, stuff like that? The only prerequisite is that auditing is enabled. Without auditing being enabled, no logs get out at all. Once auditing is enabled, we're going to get some logs. The types of logs that we're going to get will be dependent based on the licensing that that individual client has. And because of the process that I mentioned before about automated rule deployment, so if you came in here and you imported 100% of your clients and you started going through setting up the M365 connectors, which that's all free, by the way, and we'll discuss that more. What you'll see is one tenant has 40 detections, one tenant has 60, one has 32, one has 50, et cetera, et cetera. That's not a bug. That's because of the different licensing that those clients have, and because of the different ways that they use M365. So if one client uses Teams and one client uses Slack, they're not going to send Teams logs. So it's all of the different applications inside of M365 do their own logging, and depending on the logs that we get is what allows the automated real deployment to then deploy the detections that are applicable to those logs. So if you have every single client on the exact same licensing and set up the exact same way, it'll be pretty close in detection numbers, but it still will probably vary a little bit. And while you're creating these secrets, what we're just looking on the screen here and what he just showed is make sure to do two things. Pick the 24 months for the secret to be valid, and then set a reminder that this thing is going to expire. And we will send you notifications saying, hey, your secret's going to expire soon. But whether it's for us or when you're doing these enterprise applications for others, Microsoft a couple of years back changed it to where you couldn't let the secret be in perpetuity. You have to have an expiration date, and that's gonna mess up some integrations down the road. So make sure in your IT glue and ConnectWise, wherever you're taking notes and setting reminders, set a reminder for yourself to come back and update the secret as relevant for us, for whoever you're creating these enterprise applications for. But in that amount of time that we were just talking, you saw us create the integration. It takes a moment to initialize. Now, M365, I think it's got the names because sometimes it takes 365 seconds, sometimes it takes 365 minutes to actually get going. They like to give themselves a leeway. So don't immediately go over to Report Builder and think you're going to get logs. We get the connection going, and then when Microsoft feels like it, the logs start flowing. And a lot of times they come in batches. So things are in as real time as we get them out of the system, and there's just no controlling that. Microsoft is Microsoft. Questions or comments there?
I'll make a comment. People are so used to the security journey, and MDR has been such a huge buzzword. Like they just look for tools for logging to do threat hunting and see endpoints, either it being, Cisco or Sentinel-1 or whatever, and kind of putting that piece together. I like the fact that Blumira does more than that. It's more than just an MDR visibility solution. You can, to your point here, it's Microsoft. I can get data from Microsoft. You have sensors that go out there, and I can look at information from firewalls and et cetera, and correlate all that information together. That's amazing, and I think that proves that Blumeric is more than just something for MDR. It could, I call it network as a sensor, right? You could just get information from basically anywhere.
MDR is oftentimes it varies greatly in what you get depending on the flavor of who you're working with. Most of the time, it's basically managed EDR,
Mhm.
which means it's very endpoint centric. So, say you're using SentinelOne and you add their vigilance. Great
Right.
tool, great product, but you're getting a myopic focus on where those agents reside. That's an important piece of the puzzle, but that is one piece. And so if you're relying on them to see everything, well, they don't have an agent on your firewall. They don't have an agent in all your cloud applications. They're not seeing the whole picture. And these days, ransomware gets the majority of the press, but as far as financial implications, business email compromise is the number one financial cause of financial loss due to cyber attack in the globe. And that is a lot of times it's just people intercepting wire transfers and sitting there waiting in your inbox and they see a wire transfer coming up and they're like, oh, here, bank just gave us new information. Please send it to this. And then it's gone. Poof,
Mhm.
bye.
Mhm. Mhm.
But a lot of things happen before that for them to gain access, for them to set up an auto forwarding rule, for them to add themselves and change their permission, et cetera, which we have indicators for. And this is a very small, just snippet, but just to give you some ideas of some Duo detection, some umbrella detection, some M365 detections. These things, you don't have to know anything about this. So if you are thinking about a SIM of 10 years ago, you get the data, and that's just step one. Then you have to know programming language to build the parser and then know how to create a detection. And then once the detection triggers, you have to remember why you wrote the detection to figure out what you need to be go looking for as to why the detection. That's why most SIMs are only used inside of a SOC and by security analysts who help build them and help deploy them. We have easy buttoned all of this so that these things just automatically go in place. And when they happen, when they trigger, you get detailed analysis and step-by-step instructions of what to do about them. Uh, I mentioned earlier we have multiple editions, and so you kind of might want to figure out what you guys are getting access to. So our most popular editions, and I said you could bring all your clients in and set them up on M365. So the free SIM includes up to 3 cloud connectors. So M365, Duo, Umbrella, for example. It does all the log collection and threat analysis. The rules get automatically deployed. Only 14 days of retention, and there's no SecOps support from us on the free edition. Obviously, costs. We do have a very good crawl approach for M365, which is very cheap. You guys are going to start with the entire platform for free for internal use. So you can all your Cisco firewalls, all your Meraki firewalls, everything you can get over there. You can start all your clients in the free edition so that you can then sell the value of the paid editions. M365, that's a good crawl. Sim Plus takes you up to the walk, XDR being the run, and all of those, the Sim Plus and XDR include 2 agents per every user. We bill per user, 1 year retention, 24/7 support. And I'm not going to leave this up here forever, but give you a quick view just so you know this isn't like SIM with 24/7 support and 1 year retention. You're very easily talking about $30 per user when you're talking about SOC support being involved and having this type of managed curated solution where you don't have to bring security expertise. We're not talking about that. We're talking about like $5 to $10, which for 1 year retention and of unlimited ingestion, 24/7 support, and a lot of historically SIM is priced like per gig. If you go picking on Microsoft, if you look at Azure Sentinel or Microsoft Sentinel, I think they call it now, it is cost per gig per day. Now, if you have some like nice licensing, some of the stuff is included, but it's still cost per gig per day or cost per gig per mailbox, etc. To where if you go over that, the price changes. If you ingest more, the price changes. As a partner, how do you quote that? How do you quote any of these tools that are based on ingestion based pricing when you don't know before you run a proof of concept? And the proof of concepts aren't free in those solutions majority of the time. So it's just a non starter. You can't quote it, you can't sell it, you can't manage it, and it's just going to increase in price over the time. Here it's per user pricing, and this is per knowledge worker. So think about your medical clinic where you've got more employees than actual workstations. We're just talking about the number of people who work there who use computers. And a lot of times that just aligns to the exact per seat costs that our MSPs are charging them for management. So it's very simple to quote, very simple to sell. Inside your NFR, you're going to get the only limitation there is we're going to give you 5 users, which is 10 agents. And then as you sign up, you're going to get more and more and more. And really, you need something to solve this problem. With our free SIM edition and our MSP NFR program, you get healthy margins, low noise, get great ease of use and great support. We're really the only one in the space that allows you to grow revenue as you adopt a tool like this across all of your clients. Pretty much everything else you would look at, your operational efficiency would decline the more you rolled this out. And with us, you can make this mandatory across all your clients today and still make money. That's not really something that could be said for anything else in the space, and still accomplishes those actual underlying objectives to log and retain and do threat detection and response on those logs. So look, I'm not here to selling anything. I'm here to help you protect your internal environment for free. The NFR is for up to a year. Afterwards, if you add clients underneath you, paid clients, it's going to continue as free use. Otherwise, we're going to say, hey, maybe this isn't working out. Part ways as friends. We'll gladly welcome you back another time. But I hope that offer sounds reasonable. I'm trying to be a partner to the community and not just another vendor trying to sell you something. I know that they have been hearing that from Duo MSP, but Aaron, tell them about what you guys are offering as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Duo, I mean, I'm not sure if everybody has the Duo, you know, portal or not, but we do also offer a MSP Duo program as well, right? And, you know, very similar to you guys at Blumira, you have the capability of logging into it using your own, you know, device portal to provision your own, you know, MFA connectors to various different platforms like Blumira, Microsoft, and etc. But it also gives you the capability of what I would call accounts, right? And that accounts is like the multi-tenancy portion of it that allows you to add multiple clients underneath it from MSP point of view. And to your point earlier, Jeremy, is, you know, can we tie those directly into a solution like yourself? And the answer is absolutely, right? And this is a very intuitive portal you log into, other than just, you know, signing up and getting those, you know, X amount of users free. We have different tiers here at Duo or Cisco as well. You know, you have 3 different tiers. One where you essentially can use it for yourself internally. Then you also have other tiers that you can use that come with bigger and better features, probably more reporting, and then also great NFR pricing and great margins for resell as well, from a consumption-based model perspective too. And I don't know if it's on a feature slide or not, but we have something called, again, the Cisco Duo MSP program, right? And I believe if you're interested in that program, we definitely can send out the URL. I believe I have some Cisco Duo people as co-hosts on this, and they're more welcome to post that URL in there, how to reach our MSP program, and how you sign up and how do you get approved and how you get into it. It allows you to provision as many clients as you want. So.
Awesome, man. And forgive me, guys, I don't live in WebEx, so I was trying to find the chat the whole time, and I finally found it. So let's. Uh, I think you might have covered this, but I'm
Yeah,
gonna leave this
I'll
up.
go through it again really quick. Just, it's
Yeah.
easy to buy, no rooms, no orders. It's all consumption based, pay as you go. You definitely get your tiered discount aspect of it. It does come with a multi-tenancy perspective. You do get full integration support, chat support, as well as call support. One thing that at Cisco Duo they really thrive on is really the documentation. Kind of how you showed earlier, your documentation, our documentation, how you go click on it, where to click on it. It's really intuitive. And from that perspective, you do get the NFR pricing, right? From that NFR pricing, you get the X amount of users for your internal, then you get pricing that you can associate to your users that you sell out there. Really simple as a couple of clicks. You click on accounting, accounts, you create an account, ask you a couple questions, and you got that portal up and running for them. And obviously, we believe in the SMB market, your own dedicated partner manager, meaning you can call someone up or email someone and you have that interaction and to help you kind of go through that process as well. So
Sweet. Now, I think we're just going to focus on Q&As. So if you have any specific questions that haven't been addressed yet, please click the Q&A button and drop them in there. I'm going to try and run through. Gabby, thanks for consolidating. I'm going to try and run through and grab them out of chat. Should I store all logs or only ones that I feel that are important? Uh, Blumira, like if you're coming from a pure SIEM perspective, do you need every log under the sun from every single thing? Like, do I need every switch log? Probably not. Core switching, sure. But we want every log that could be of security value. And so there's a lot of MDRs that are kind of looking at this as, hey, we added a feature. So going back to pick on Sentinel-1 again, because they're big enough not to care about what I say. Uh, so Sentinel-1 Vigilance, great solution. I'm going to click the SIEM add-on. Well, great. You're now keeping logs for 90 days instead of the 30 or 15. But still, that's just from their agent. It doesn't include all the other things. And EDRs by nature, they filter logs down to what they need for their detections to deploy. It's not everything. So when we deploy the Blumira agent on Windows, for example, it's going to grab all the Windows event IDs and process information and east-west network information and Windows Defender information, all of the stuff that our team and Blumira, by the way, blue as in blue team, we're the good guys. Mira is Spanish to look, to search. We're the good guys looking for bad stuff in your environment. So you want to get all logs that not just might be relevant in your current detection and response, but might be relevant in an incident response down the road where did the SolarWinds guys think they needed the underlying software delivery from SolarWinds information? No, you never think about that until after the fact. So as much as possible to really enable the like in an incident response, if you have the logs, you can recover quickly and you'll know what happened in what time frame and it'll be way less expensive. If you don't, it's going to take more time. There's going to be more downtime, and they're not going to be able to guarantee that they did anything. They're going to be like, you don't have the logs. We don't know. And so they might still be in your environment. That's why you get a bunch of these double dip ransomware or ransomware extortion attempts because they've had access for so long. They're still in there. And they just don't know because they didn't have the logs turned on. So not everything in the world, but everything that could be security relevant, you'll want to log
yeah.
and make sure that if you're picking one of these MDR features, they're not doing filtering. It's not just one thing. Your take, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a loaded question because going back to what I said earlier, you're only as good as the visibility you have, right? And we magically can't go and collect data for you. So you have to pick and choose from an infrastructure point of view what data means the most to me, right? And either being an EDR, a firewall, a switch, or whatever, depending on the industry that you're in, determines that framework. And does it make sense for me to collect logs from just this area? Probably not. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a guest network. Don't care. They're isolated. But I have switches over here, firewalls over here that are part of an OT infrastructure. Typically, I don't collect Cisco switch logs, but in this
Right?
case, I do need to, right? And let's say there's Cisco ICE or a NAC solution or some type of port security that, from a zero trust point of view, I need that visibility. I need to dive into that stuff. So that's such a hard question where really the only person that can answer that is the partner themselves or the customer themselves, determining what visibility they want in that particular infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
And
So probably the right answer is, what does your security policy say?
yeah, right. And
And if you haven't written it yet,
you're
then
absolutely right. Yeah, get
yeah.
it done. Your security policy, right? And just to plug Blumira really quick, one of the really good things that you guys do extremely well is instead of getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of logs, you guys do this stacking, right? Where it kind of gives you the impact of a stack. Instead of getting 1,000 logs, I get this one alert, and it allows me to drill into it from a detailed point of view. So I don't have this overwhelming information in front of me, just goes in like Jim Carrey right there, just kind of going at it, right? It's just very easy to use. I could dig into it. I could dive into where you're, like you said, the spotlight of the problem, and go research. So I really like that technology that you guys have from that perspective.
And I'll clarify which time I'm gonna stop the share so you don't all have to sit there and stare at Jim Carrey doing that dance. It's GIFs are great until you have to stare at them for more than 30 seconds. When you get a finding, when you get a, detection from Blumira, so for example, if someone was password spraying you, legacy SIEMs, and you have 10 employees and they were each sprayed 100 times, they're going to send you 1,000 alerts, if I can do math. In ours, you would get one finding with 1,000 lines of matched evidence under it, telling you you're getting password sprayed. Here's what to do about it. So it tampers down that noise literally by like 99%, because instead of getting every single line level evidence as a new finding, as a new alert, which that's one of the bad things about him SIEM historically, is it's noisy. Like, I can't, it's a mountain of alerts. I can't keep up. Matching and stacking evidence allows us to consolidate what would normally be hundreds or thousands of lines of matched evidence into, or hundreds of thousands of alerts into one with matched and stacked evidence. And that's a good point. I lost the chat. Now I have to find it again. But another one was a question about best practices in getting SC or CEF logs. So in Blumira, you would deploy a Blumira sensor, which it's an Ubuntu 22 LTS, usually a virtual machine somewhere behind your firewall if you have extra VM space. If you don't, it can go on. It's very low impact, so like 4 gigs of RAM, 4-core CPU, 150 gig hard drive. Nothing stored locally. It just encrypts and ships up to the cloud, but it natively ingests syslog, CEF, and one more type of syslog that I am not remembering right now. But it natively ingests CEF for Rick asking that question. Jason asked, no single pane of glass for both. I lost the context of that. So you get a single pane of glass for every one of your Blumira customers underneath your Blumira MSP portal. Same thing for Duo. There is no, to my knowledge, single pane of glass for an MSP for every single one of your vendor solutions. I think Cloud Radio might try to do that,
Yeah,
but it's
just to
more
be
for customer portal.
yeah, I think just to make it clear on that, Blumera and Cisco are two separate companies, right? So they're,
Yeah.
when you look at a SIM, I mean, I hate to say it, it kind of is a single pane of glass in a sense of alerting notifications and threat hunting, right? You look at XDR, you look at, managed endpoints and get the logs in together and kind of look at everything. But is it a single point of glass for administration of both products? No, unfortunately. You still have Cisco Duo, their multi-tenancy, and Blumera multi-tenancy, where, you go to Blumera, you click on, their tenancy, you see all the different customers or clients you have in there and kind of dig into that. You can still see all the logs independently for each individual instance. But yes, there are two completely different separate companies.
And what is considered to be a user? We consider a knowledge worker to be a user, which is actually pretty similar to Duo as well. So it's really the total number of employees that are using computers that have an email. There are some exceptions to that for like, so manufacturing is a good example. You have 1,000 employees that work at the manufacturer, but only 100 are admin staff that use computers as part of their daily job, other than like clocking in and out. We talk about 100 users in that example. And we are per user pricing. So the user count is what dictates the pricing. And then you get, depending on the edition, if you're in edition with agents, that you get 2 agents per every user, which covers like 98% of the use cases. And if for some reason you need more agents, just up the user count. Uh, to sign up for an MSP account, we would first sign up for an NFR. Yes, Blumira.com/NFR. I think it's probably still, is it still MSP.com/MFR or Duo.com/NF, Duo.com/MSP? And I'll share this slide again in just a minute.
And also for anyone that, aside from the Duo perspective, just to plug, we also have a different program called Secure MSP. That is a different solution that allows you to not only do Duo, but as well as our endpoints and Umbrella and etc. So we have other products that you can use from an MSP point of view. But go ahead and continue, Jeremy.
And if you haven't looked at Umbrella in a while, it's time to again. I know that for a little while after, for a lot of while after acquisition there, they decisions were made that weren't the most MSP friendly, but that tide has turned. So if you haven't looked at that for a while, go check out the Umbrella program at Cisco Secure MSP. Going through some more of the questions. Will Blumira ingest logs regarding file level auditing within SharePoint or OneDrive within 365? The short answer is yes, but the long answer is a lot. It depends, because the M365 integration is going to get us certain levels of data by default. There are also Azure AD Event Hub integration. That's a Microsoft thing. You pay for event hubs in Azure, and you can enable different event hubs and enable different applications to send additional logging to the event hub, which would then be ingested by us. So if it's not natively, off the top of my head, I don't know if that's natively in the M365 integration, but it would be possible to enable that in the individual application, send it to an event hub and ingest it that way. There will be extra costs on the Microsoft side for that, no extra costs on our side. So it just depends if it's in the native M365 logging or not, and that also depending on what licensing you're using. So if once you get your NFR stood up, my team will work with you, and if you give them that use case, we can make sure it's make sure and give you an exact answer once we have the variables laid out in front of us. Question from Corey: is the free version just for monitoring internal, or can be used for internal and client accounts? Good question. So this is kind of confusing because it's free for internal use NFR. Your Blumira NFR would be for your total environment internally, and you get the total Blumira platform. That's one thing over here. We also have a free edition that is for anyone, and we allow you under your MSP portal to put all of your clients under the MSP portal, set them up on the free edition, which is up to 3 cloud connectors. So for the purpose of this call, M365, Duo, Umbrella, and that is free in perpetuity. It's just a free edition. It's just very limited. So Duo has Duo free up to 10 users, right? This is free for 3 cloud connectors, and it only has ingestion for 14 days. Almost all the detections are the same. There's a few that are advanced in terms of it takes a lot of money cost to run them, and those aren't included. But from the ingestion, detection, and response, it's good security. And yes, you can use that. And we are giving that to you as a product-led growth approach for you to help sell the value of the paid editions. And it works very well. We've been doing this for 3 years, and we have clients, partners, MSPs who have come in, they like it, they add all their clients on the free edition, and then they use executive reports, and they use, hey, we just saw this business email compromise and we stopped it. We never would have seen this without log level visibility. We need you on the same edition we're using, which is the full platform. Aaron, did you have a comment in there?
No, no. I've commented on some other ones, but no, you nailed it.
Uh, does the solution allow for automated remediation of threats, and is there any tie into Microsoft Secure Score? We have automatic host isolation. So anything that has the agent on it, you can create settings to where if priority one threat, automatically isolate. We also have dynamic block listing. So if you have a firewall that like all the Cisco firewalls, all the ASAs and FTDs and all that kind of stuff, they support dynamic block lists. You can set that up and you can set up your thresholds to automatically block threats there. We are working on threat response for M365, which would be like settings for automatically block a user, automatically reset password. That's probably coming in, if I had to guess, Q1 of 2025. And there will be, we're going, continuing down that path of what can we do in an automated fashion to basically be the stopgap before you guys take a look at it.
And also, just to add to that, the Cisco's exploring, not today, exploring the integration between Blumira and Cisco XDR. So if we do get alerts notification, we get very basic intel from Blumira, but we actually want a full-blown integration. So if you're using Cisco XDR and want to remediate or mitigate or set what we call orchestration automation, then you have the capability of setting those playbooks from an IR point of view and remediate things with like a Phantom or with a Cisco XDR. But that again, from a SOAR point of view, we are working out those kinks.
Perfect. Kevin asked if Blumira is a subsidiary of Duo. We're all just friends. We all
Not
see
yet.
each other on the event circuit, and as I mentioned at the top of the call, I worked at Duo in 2017 and helped build the MSP program. So it's just a friendly affair. There is no official uh, company like connection. It is, we are both very good security companies that are doing a lot for the MSP community, and we want y'all to know about it. Um, does Blumir offer pre-configured run books, automated actions? We kind of talked about the automated actions, but pre-configured run books are a little bit separate, so I'm going to address them separately. Every single finding that you get from Blumira has a pre-configured runbook built into it. And what that means is it's going to come with analysis written so that IT people can understand of like, hey, Aaron, did you just add Gabby as a global admin into M365? And it's going to have a little question, yes or no. And if you did it, yes, is that okay? Yes. Okay. Nothing to see here. Let's go. No. Oh crap, here's the next thing you might want to take a look at. So it's a lot of if this, then that, basically question asking to drive your text to a response. So you don't have to have security expertise to run this. You get alerts, they tell you what to do about it. And the biggest thing that I wouldn't have guessed before coming here is how much the feedback was going to be that my techs love this, because working through these pre-configured runbooks that we deliver, your techs are going to be inherently taught how to respond to security incidents. So your other tools that don't give you these instructions, the Blumira instructions are teaching them what are the questions that I should be asking, what are the where are the things that I should be what are the things that I should be looking at to further investigate and then remediate these threats as they come up. So we're really one of the only tools that you can use that teaches you how to better operate another security tool. Uh, and we kind of talked about the automated action piece, which we have some, more are coming. If you have any that you have already seen that you want to call out, Aaron, go ahead. I'm still catching up through them.
Yeah, so there's one question. I'll state the question. I'm actually biting at my nails to answer, but I want you to comment on it first. It's some of our customers are looking for a full SIM plus SOC plus IR solution. Can Blumera do full incident response independently? It sounded like the MSP still has to be involved.
Uh, that's a little bit of self-dealing. IR companies that do IR really well are almost always separate, independent companies. And if they were also running your SIM and then also running your IR, what would they be looking for if they already missed it? And that's a little flippant, but like y- just like a lot of your customers, you wouldn't have them pay you to do the annual pen test. You're going to do a third party.
Mm.
You're not going to self deal. It's that kind of thing. So, with Blumira, yeah, absolutely, the MSP needs to be involved. And don't kid yourself. I don't care who you're contracting with and what they tell you. You're still going to be involved.
Yeah.
Only for MSP specifically, you have the context of what's going on in your environment and in your customer's environment. You have the admin access into those tools to actually do the remediation. You like there are plenty of security companies out there that'll tell you, yeah, it's fully outsourced. Just give it to us. We'll do everything. All that's going to happen is they have 20 or 30 interns that are just copying and pasting notes from one of their run books and then sending it over the fence saying, hey, you should look at this. And then you're going to have to do it because only you have the context and only you have the IT admin access to do it. So either you need to give up that control and then contract with like an MSSP to do it for you, at which case you need to update your MSAs to show that you are just IT support and other people are doing security and like fully partner with somebody like that. Or you need to understand you're always going to be in the loop, and why not pay for better outcomes than just for people to lie to you? Because what they're going to say is, yeah, we'll do everything. What they mean is, we're going to put up a black box so you can't see into it. And then we're going to throw stuff over the fence, and you're still going to have to do the work at the end of the day. And maybe they're calling you in the middle of the night. The reason they're calling you is because they're not going to do it. So yes, you're always going to be involved unless you really draw a hard line for yourself, at which point call a lawyer, update your MSA, and update your service descriptions for what you really do and do not do. Uh, we our SOC, you can ask them questions about anything in terms of the full life cycle of what's in Blumira. Where we draw that line is if through working together we say like, hey, you guys, this is a breach. You need to pull out your IR plan and start working it. We're not going to do hands on your keyboard IR.
Mm.
We can refer you to one, and we are going to give you advice about up into that line. And then once it gets to the point where you need to work your IR plan, we're going to still help. We're going to be there available for the IR people to come in and do their investigation and give them logs and get them the access that you ask us to give them. But we don't do IR.
Yeah. So I'll comment on that too. Either being Blumira or what we call it Cisco service only partners that offer security services, right? And those security services could be SOC services, they could be what I call threat hunting, IR response, and etc. So we at Cisco do have what we call a service only list of partners that we help from a tier two distribution point of view, or any of our partners or any of our MSPs, right? That will never sell against you. They have that partnership with you, and these companies, service only partners, do support Blumira and do support Cisco security. So they can either choose to be that SOC and offer that remediation, that hands-on, as well as the capability of working with the MSP as well, right? And so these partners, what I call service-only partners, are orchestrated to work in different ways. They already have their playbooks, they already have their investigations, they have the teams ready to do this. And it really is, for the MSP space, it's very expensive to develop your own SOC, or very expensive to develop your own team to do IR, because IR may not happen every day. You may have one a month or two a month, but it takes a lot of investment and spending. I mean, security people are expensive, right? So we're starting to see MSPs adapt to what we call service only partners to work with Blumira, work with Cisco, and offer that back end monitoring and threat handling through Blumira, through Cisco, and kind of give those XDR capabilities for threat hunting, etc., right? And and then from there, they proxy through you, or they could work directly to the customer from an IR, from a red team, purple team, whatever team, and orchestrate a lot of those things. And then you can resell or make your profit on top of that. So again, we have the capability and partners that we work with that know Blumira well, that have SOC services, or they can proxy through Blumira SOC services, and that do have the AR capabilities, the army that comes out and drops out. But of course, we're talking about expensive dollars here, right? It depends on what type of level these people want to be able to afford it. So, I mean, IR is expensive. There's what I call IR Light, IR Basic, IR Advantage, there's IR Premium. There's a lot to it, but having that SOC company determine what the problem is, and using the MSP team to help remediate it. But if they need the support of an IR team to do the campaigning and as well as the investigations, etc., it all can be worked out in the back end. So that way MSPs have that power, and they have the knowledge to go in there with the support of not only Cisco Blumira, but that service only partner too as well. So